There is a widespread misunderstanding about motivation. Most people believe motivation comes from importance. If something matters enough, action should naturally follow. If the consequences are serious enough, effort should appear. For a large part of the population, this is true. Neurotypical brains are wired to respond to priority. A deadline, a responsibility, or a future reward is enough to trigger action. But for neurodivergent people, especially those with ADHD, autism, or similar processing differences, this model of motivation does not work reliably. Not because of a lack of effort, not because of laziness, but because the brain operates on a different activation system. When a neurodivergent person sits in front of an important task and feels physically unable to start, this is often labeled as procrastination. In reality, it is a neurological issue known as executive dysfunction. The brain understands what needs to be done. The intention is present, but the signal required to begin action never arrives. To understand why, we need to look at how motivation actually starts in the brain. Motivation is not discipline. It is not character. It is a chemical process. At the center of this process is dopamine. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but that is misleading. Its primary role is anticipation. Dopamine is what creates the bridge between thinking about an action and physically starting it. In neurotypical brains, dopamine is released steadily. Even boring or routine tasks produce enough of a signal to trigger action. In neurodivergent brains, dopamine regulation works differently. The baseline level is often lower, where the dopamine is recycled too quickly. This creates a higher activation threshold. As a result, tasks that are important but unstimulating fail to generate enough chemical signal to start action. The bridge is never built. This is why someone can want to do something, care deeply about it, and still remain frozen. This difference creates two distinct motivation systems. Neurotypical brains operate on an importance-based system. They prioritize tasks based on hierarchy, future reward, and consequence. Neurodivergent brains operate on an interest-based system. Importance alone is not enough. Instead, motivation is triggered by specific forms of stimulation. Clinical observation and research show that neurodivergent motivation reliably activates under 4 conditions. The first is interest. When a task is genuinely interesting, dopamine regulation improves dramatically. This can lead to hyperfocus, a state of intense, sustained attention where effort feels almost effortless. The second is novelty. New environments, tools, or methods stimulate the brain. Repetition causes disengagement because dopamine output drops once something becomes familiar. The third is challenge. Tasks that are too easy are understimulating. Difficulty, problem-solving, or competition increases engagement by activating the brain's alert systems. The fourth is urgency. Urgency is the most powerful and most dangerous trigger. When a deadline becomes immediate, the brain switches from dopamine to stress chemicals like adrenaline. This forces action, but at the cost of exhaustion. From the outside, this pattern looks like inconsistency. From the inside, it feels like being capable only at the last possible moment. Over time, relying on urgency trains the brain to associate productivity with stress, leading to burnout. Another key difference lies in how time is experienced. Many neurodivergent people experience what is often called time blindness. Time does not feel like a smooth, linear flow. It is experienced as now and not now. Future rewards feel abstract and emotionally distant. Even consequences that are logically understood do not trigger motivation until they enter the now zone. This explains why long-term goals and delayed rewards often fail to motivate action. This also explains why traditional reward systems are unreliable. In standard behavioral models, effort is reinforced by reward, but in neurodivergent brains, the delay between action and reward breaks the connection. The brain struggles to link present effort with future payoff. Immediate feedback sustains momentum, delayed rewards do not. These differences are often misunderstood as personal flaws. Neurodivergent people are frequently described as lazy, unmotivated, or irresponsible. In reality, the issue is not effort, it is activation. Once started, many neurodivergent individuals perform exceptionally well. The difficulty lies in initiating action, not completing it. The most important conclusion is this: motivation is not a moral trait, it is a neurological process. The neurotypical world is built around importance and consequence. The neurodivergent brain responds to interest, novelty, challenge, and urgency. When neurodivergent people are forced to use systems designed for a different brain type, failure becomes predictable. Not because the brain is broken, but because the fuel is wrong. Understanding this difference changes the conversation. It replaces shame with clarity, judgment with accuracy, and frustration with explanation. Neurodivergent motivation does not need fixing. It needs alignment.